Hello folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Enlightened Aerial Squadron box from Warcradle Studios for Dystopian Wars. Okay, so the Enlightened Aerial Squadrons for Dystopian Wars. This box contains an Adamski, which can also be built as a Hanabu or Valtar, and a Lucid, which can also be built as a Pythias, and 2 SRS tokens. So I can hear rattling. That's a big sprue. What's rattling? One of our flying stands. So what have we? We have got the clear flight stand with its missing friend. We have our bases, so 4 of the round black bases for your SRS tokens, and then 2 sprues for the main battleship, and then 4 smaller ovals. And then we have 2 sprues which are identical. No build guide in the box. It is online, so when it comes to building there'll be a bit of flicking back and forth depending on what you want to build. So this is the front of the sprue, the Enlightened Aerial Squadron. Here's our SRS token, one of our smaller saucer sections, and then a whole host of various weapon systems and engines, which obviously I will have to go and take a look at the build. They're all numbered anyway, so individually numbered. There's 21 and 22. So the build should be relatively quick, he said, hopefully. Nice level of detail. As always, you can see things like the decking here, same as on the decks of the ships. Right, let's take these away and get them built. Alright, so the Enlightened saucers are built. As you can see, I've decided to have this one banking. And this brings me to my only major issue that you might run into. The jet engines. These are built and then inserted between the 2 discs before you glue the discs together and then add the weapons and bridge and things like that to it. There are actually 3 positions, so you'll see that there's actually 3 little indents formed like this with maybe a 45-degree angle between each one, and then the engine themselves are mounted with a little pinion. So you can mount it in any of those 3. It doesn't look like it makes a difference, and indeed if you're having this saucer flat parallel to the base, it doesn't make a difference. However, I decided to be cocky and have it banking. Now that means I want this engine to be angled that way. I want this rear engine to be angled that way, so they're pointing at the ground. But these 2, because of their positions and because I use the middle fixing for each of them, they can't really pivot. So if you are planning on doing this sort of thing here just for a bit of interest, then these you would need to put at one of the angled positions. So you just need to work out what way you're going to be leaning and what way to best position these so you can have the turn on the actual engines to be appropriate, because ideally I'd like all of these engines to be parallel with the ground, or with the sea in this case, just to give the idea that as it banks, the engines all tilt into place with it. But, you know, that's a minor thing, and that's a me thing. It's just if you fancy doing it yourself, check that out. This 360-degree weapon system on the bottom, I found it's got 2 little connectors, one on either side. It's allowed to pivot. I've glued it in place because I noticed that if it pivots up or down, then it can be removed, which is handy if you want to swap them around. But if you're going to do that, I would suggest magnetizing the back of it to the inside of the hull, so you can click them in and click them out. If you're just leaving them in there and want them to swivel, you may find occasionally they'll drop out because they'll pivot too far. I just went ahead and glued it in place because it's underneath. Once you know what you're playing with in the game, then nobody can tell you any different. The saucer itself is a majestic 100mm across, and then very low profiled. So what are we there? Around 25, maybe 27 to the top of the generator on top. So that's the main Adamski, although you can also build it as the Hanabu or the Valtar, or Hanabo perhaps. Popping him aside, there's a little recon squadron with. So again, very simple build. These are just 4 pieces. So 2 halves, generator on top. 5 pieces. 2 halves, generator on top, lock on the bottom that holds one of the weapon systems in place. And so if you're building these as a Euclid, then you'll have your little weapon system. If you're building them as the Pythos, then you'll have a launching ramp for the SRS tokens because they come with the capability of launching flyers for them. And these are a very dinky 35mm across, and about as thick as a little flying saucer for those who remember the penny sweets from back in the day. But there we have it, the Saucer Aerial Squadron box for the Enlightened. So there we go. Very easy to put together. Obviously there's multiple options there for the large saucer, 3 different variants. Then you've got your smaller backup squadron. Sort of think of them as destroyer and frigates, but aerial, and you're not far away. So plenty of options in there. And obviously if you fancy magnetizing the big fella, then you can get a lot more out of it. But interesting to see more of these aerial combat units coming into Dystopian Wars. Everybody's getting a sort of an upgrade and a refresh, and it'll be really fascinating to see how the meta changes with the inclusion of more aerial forces on the tabletop. But let me know what you think below. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.